saying a psychological death game is new in the market might be a little bit of an overstretch. In America we have Jigsaw, and in South Korea we have Squid Game. But what if I tell you, in November 2010, a manga from Haro Aso will put your brain on a twisted, mind-blowing roller coaster of insanity. Welcome to the absolute peak of psychological manga, Alice in Borderland, where laser falls onto your head for overstaying your visa, weird version of My Dress-Up Darling wearing a horse head, shooting everyone on sight for not paying their rent, and a dude who gets Medusa-stoned rock hard after accidentally taking a peek at a girl changing. To be fair, damn. Anyway, so, who the heck is Haro Aso? Haro Aso was born in Osaka, Japan, and years later he dropped out of Kansai University to pursue his manga artist career. He made his very first debut with a one-shot called Junge in 2005, Hide and Closer in 2007, and his most notable work that has lasted from November 2010 to March 2016, Alice in Borderland. At the time of the manga's conclusion, it had 1.3 million copies in circulation. The manga was also given 2 major adaptations, an original animation series and a live-action television series. Following Alice in Borderland's completion, Aso retired from drawing and started another successful manga that would later be known as Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. Alice in Borderland is set in contemporary Tokyo, where the story revolves around the main protagonist, Ryohei Arisu, a disillusioned young man who, along with his friends Karube and Chota, finds himself mysteriously transported into a deserted alternate reality after a strange fireworks display. This alternate reality, known as the Borderland, serves not only as a setting, but also as a character in its own right, shaping the actions and decisions of the protagonist. In Borderland, each player possesses something called a visa that represents a limited duration of time they have left to live in this alternate universe. When a player's visa expires, it's game over for you. Like, seriously, a 4,000 feet high laser drops right on top of your head, and the next thing you know... So, really, the main question here is, how does one extend the so-called visa? Well, you gotta play these death games, and when I mean play, it's more like you have to win them. Before we go any further, there's a really interesting world mechanic we have to talk about. These games are separated into 4 categories: spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds categories, referencing the symbols in a game of card. Genius work there, Aso. These 4 categories, however, have their unique set of focal points. Spades are physical challenges, diamonds are games of intellect, clubs are a balance between both spades and diamonds, and lastly, the most problematic of them all, hearts. Games that heavily involve psychology and play with nasty desires of human emotions. Additionally, the number of the card is the difficulty level of the game category. For example, 7 of Hearts would be a psychological game with the difficulty of 7. After Arisu and his group clear the 3 of Club and the 5 of Spades games, what they don't know is, the next game event will be the very last time these 4 will ever participate together. I think Aso did extremely well to roll a red carpet, signifying the turning point in the story. He spends an entire previous chapter covering all 4 major characters at this point in time. Karube found a radio signal hinting the answer to getting out of the Borderland. Arisu leisurely laid down on a train track, crying and feeling grateful in his own quote, "Being alive feels amazing," while Chota and Shibuki enjoyed each other's company in the moment, knowing tomorrow might never come. The tragedy happens on the 4th day, where they would encounter their first heart category game. Inside the game venue, they are asked to put on a collar and pick a weapon of their choice without knowing the content and the rating of the game they were taking part in. Game Master then proceeds to explain the rules of the game and later reveals the rating 7 of Hearts, called Hide and Seek. This is not a typical hide and seek game, however. The rules were as follows. One player is the wolf, while the others are the sheep, and the roles shift through eye contact. The wolf must hide to avoid being found, while the sheep must seek out the wolf to become the last one standing. Initially, everyone assumes this is a straightforward reverse hide-and-seek scenario, but it quickly turns into a complex mix of emotion when they realize that all the sheep's colors will explode after the 10-minute timer is up. They were stunned, shell-shocked of a very simple fact that only one of them will make it out alive from this game. For them, the goal has always been to escape the borderland with everyone staying alive. The harsh reality sets in, and before they know it, the clock already starts counting down to their death. Karube begs Arisu to find a loophole in the game, and quickly realizes that their luck ran out the moment they decide to step into the venue. Towards the end of the game, Arisu is the first to announce that he will forfeit the game, and therefore give his wolf status to one of his friends. The flashback is told from Arisu's perspective when he was still in Japan, years before the current event. In Japanese standard, Arisu is considered a failure, a no good if you'd like. He's not doing well in school and struggling to live up to his family's expectations. Living was suffocating for him until he met Karube and Chota. To Arisu, these two were like a family he longed for, and the times they spent together were irreplaceable. They accepted Arisu for who he is, the type of friends who we all wish to have. Arisu doesn't want to betray the kindness they've given him, and concludes that it is better if one of them were to live instead. This dialogue opens everyone's eyes and reminds them that there are things that's more important than death itself. My heart was broken reading through these last few pages of this chapter. Shibuku, Karube, and Chota hide away from Arisu while communicating through the headset. Karube says that he was able to have a dream after meeting Arisu, and Chota mentions closely after that he would give his life away if it means saving his friends. 2 minutes left on the clock, and Arisu was desperate to find any sheep. Anyone will do, as long as he can hunt down a sheep he can finally pass on in peace. He desperately cries out for them to show up, to come out of their hiding spots, but there is no response. He sprints like a madman inside an almost, empty venue. Until the last 10 seconds, they open their comms one last time to say goodbye. Karube mentions that the beach is the next destination and could be a lead to escape from this world, and altogether, they tell Arisu to live on for them. A curse that will continue to haunt him until the day he dies. Soon after, a loud explosion can be heard inside the venue, and Arisu's collar slides off around his neck, signifying that the game ends, and he is the last one standing. If you think this is the most messed up part, then you could never be more wrong. Upon returning to the entrance, Arisu is given mutton as a cruel and mocking reward. This game shifts Arisu's perspective on the borderland entirely. Consumed by grief and anger, he vows to avenge his friends and make sure their deaths aren't in vain. He even goes as far as saying he will kill everyone who is responsible for these games. Arisu's renewed purpose demonstrates that their deaths, while tragic, were pivotal for his personal growth and survival. Their support during their normal lives was vital, and their deaths proved to be no less significant. Alice in Borderland stands out in the survival game genre for its thrilling and intricate games. From a simple battle royale mystery, it dives headfirst into a philosophical rollercoaster about life and death. Characters like Arisu undergo profound transformations, battling personal demons in a place where staying alive is a full-time job. This willingness of the author to kill off major characters enhances the story's unpredictability and intensity, compelling Arisu to outsmart his opponents and make strategic alliances. The pacing of the manga is relentless, with cliffhangers at the end of almost every chapter, keeping readers on edge and deeply engaged. Arisu, initially aimless, becomes a strategic leader driven by survival instincts and a desire to protect others. His journey mirrors that of other characters, each overcoming their own psychological and moral challenges. The narrative expands beyond Arisu to include diverse perspectives, like Shuntaro Chishiya, whose strategic intellect contrasts with emotional turmoil. His evolution challenges conventional survival norms, highlighting the psychological complexities of the game. Then there are characters like Shirabi and Niragi, who aren't introduced until later in the series, adding layers with their deep, morally grey stories. Each contributes to the manga's exploration of morality and human resilience in the Borderlands' unforgiving landscape. Alice in Borderland isn't just action-packed, it's a journey through human chaos and resilience. It makes you think while keeping you on the edge of your seat, wondering how far you'd go to survive. Given the nature of the games, betrayal becomes a crucial theme. Characters often face moral dilemmas, where betraying others isn't always about being evil, it's often the smart move to stay alive. The psychological toll of these choices shows how fragile trust can be when your life is on the line. Characters like Aguni and Doppo are torn between what's right and what keeps them alive. Usagi's growing paranoia and Niragi's sadistic tendencies highlight the diverse motivations behind betrayal. Chishiya's manipulative tactics strain relationships, especially against Arisu's more team-oriented approach. But it's not just about personal battles. The manga also takes critiques at society's rules and how we chase success, revealing some real truths about who we are when chaos reigns. Alice in Borderland is like a mirror reflecting our world without all the usual niceties, forcing characters to face who they really are. In the finale of the manga, Arisu and his remaining friends triumph over the Queen of Hearts, a game that stood out as the ultimate psychological twist, a refreshing change from the murderous games that came before it. After winning, Arisu and the surviving players are given a choice: to either remain in the Borderland as citizens or return to the real world. Most characters, as their common sense would dictate, choose to return to the real world. Arisu, being one of them, gains the new appreciation for life and the importance of living with purpose and connection to others. Borderlands' revelation as a space for those who have faced near-death experiences only adds depth to the story, framing the games as tests of survival and readiness to re-enter reality. While some found the ending beautiful and well executed, provoking questions about the worth of life and personal trauma, others simply didn't understand it. Although critics have pointed out narrative flaws and some predictability in the intellectual games, they couldn't deny that the ending was the most plausible conclusion for the story, for it directly ties back to the philosophical question of life and death that the author consistently emphasizes. The artwork is stunning, and the writing is exceptionally well crafted. Aso, the author, stands out as a rare talent, having both the artistic skill and intellectual depth to create such a thoughtful masterpiece. Alice in Borderland got its own live-action remake on Netflix too in December 2020, and it's also pretty darn good. They nailed the character dynamics and high-stakes games, keeping that intense edge-of-your-seat vibe from the manga. Some people even say it's one of the best live-action anime adaptations. Please keep in mind that the live-action version reduces a huge chunk of the plot, so for the full Alice in Borderland experience, I highly encourage people to read the manga instead. At the time of making this video, there is a sequel to this series, which reminds me to stop hoarding all the manga. If you enjoyed our video, please don't forget to support the channel. By watching as long as you could really helps out with the algorithm. Well peeps, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!